It's a caterpillar, Jim, but not as we know it. In this review we're looking at two unusual Caterpillar models. And these are models of machines produced by Caterpillar's Chinese company. Both models are by Yagao and are in 1:35 scale. Let's get the first one out of the box, and it's the SEM 822 track type tractor. And at first it didn't want to come out of the box until we spoke to it nicely. And after that it was just a matter of cutting the factory seals and separating the two expanded polystyrene trays. With the model out of the box there's a little bit more of the packaging to remove, and that's the shrink wrap on the crawler tracks. And of course once you cut it off you're not really in a position to put it back on again. There are also a couple of little pieces of round tape, and they are securing the cab doors. The other model is the SEM 919 motor grader, and the packaging's the same except we have a twist tie. So that does mean there's a little bit of a fight to get the model free from the packaging. But despite that, the model is well packaged with bits of foam rubber also protecting the model. Just like on the tractor, there are a few other bits to remove, but there's no assembly to do because both of these models are complete out of the box. Looking underneath the dozer, the metal tracks have bolt head details, and the rest is fairly simple. The outer face of the drive sprocket is a little bit strange because it's plastic and part of the track frame, and the silver rivets would have looked better painted. On the plus side there are some tiny graphics adding detail. Looking at the back, the ripper has some hydraulic hoses, and the ripper teeth are reasonably well formed. A nice touch is the very thin grab rails. The cab has got work lights and some more thin grab rails, and the detail inside the cab is very good with graphics on the console. At the front the exhaust pipe has got a decent hole. There are more thin grab rails and a very nice mesh grille. There are also some tiny graphics. At the front there are hydraulic hoses to control the blade, and the hydraulic rams have a very good colour match. The front grille is good, and the big blade also has nice wear plate detailing. Looking at the grader, it's got nice quality rubber tyres, and the structure is modelled reasonably well. There's also detailing including hoses in the engine area. The tyres are mounted on nicely detailed wheels, but the colour match on the toolbox on the side is not so good. However, there are nicely thin grab rails, and one thing that is really good are the fine mesh grills. And it's always nice to have grills that you can actually see through. At the back the connection rivets on the ripper would have looked better painted, but the teeth are nicely highlighted. There's some more nice detailing underneath the cab, and that includes hydraulic hoses. And the interior of the cab is modelled well with all of the controls being provided. The detailing of the moldboard is nice, and the wear plates can be easily seen. And there are plenty of hydraulic hoses. The front work lights are very nice. There are hoses running to the front blade. And although some of the rivets would have been better painted, there is more nice wear plate detailing. We will start with the tracked machine, and you can rotate the tracks although they are very stiff, but it is unusual the way the drive sprocket has been modelled, and that's because the outer face is not part that rotates. Moving to the back, let's check the ripper assembly, and it raises to a decent height. And if you want to lower it, there's just enough movement to sink your teeth in. At the front the blade assembly is quite stiff to move, but you can tilt it forwards or backwards, although it seems to be spring-loaded so it won't stay tilted back. But in terms of the other movement you can raise the blade, although it is very stiff on the two hydraulic rams that control it. A nice feature on the model is that it does have opening cab doors, and it works well with the cab door opening widely. There are doors on both sides, and that gives you a good look inside the cab. On we go to the SEM 919 motor grader, and it's a nice smooth machine because it rolls along really nicely. There are two methods of steering the machine. The first is at a pivot point at the cab, but the range of movement is not huge, and the other steering is provided at the front axle. And using that, you can get a good steering angle on the whole machine. In fact, the engineering of the steering axle is really good. It has got huge up and down oscillation, and as we've already seen, it's got a very good steering angle. What's also really good, and it's not something you often see, is that it's got a very good angle of tilt on the front wheels. At the back, the two driven axles are on a pivoting arrangement, and as you can see here, the wheels on both sides pivot together. The ripper assembly seems to have a good range of movement, and you can see that it could rip below the level of the wheels. If you want to park the ripper, it goes up to a good height. Moving to the front, and the blade can be raised and lowered. And if we test it out, you can see that the blade does a good job of pushing material. Moving on to the moldboard, and it's got some but not all movements of the real machine. The moldboard can be rotated on the circle. It has a small tilt backwards and forwards but can't move lengthways. But the movement on the lift rams is good, so you can raise it and lower it and tilt it. So let's run a test and do a little bit of grading. And if you're a good operator, you can probably make the cut. There are still a couple of other features on the model, and the first of these is the widely opening cab doors. And the other thing, which is a little bit unexpected, is the widely opening engine cover. And that lets you see the detailed engine underneath. If you collect Caterpillar models, there won't be too many that have these models. The SEM 822 is a nice model rated as good, and it's a good companion to the grader model. Like the tractor, the grader has some very nice detailing, but the grader does have some better functionality. It is impressive in the larger 1:35 scale, and overall it's very good.